Welcome to my live stream. Hi. Sorry, I haven't plugged that in. Okay, cool. My name is Hannah. Welcome. If this is your first time to my live stream, please let me know, comment below, and let me know where you're from in the world as well. And when you do jump on live, say hi, let me know you're here. And let me know if there's anything in particular that you want me to talk about. In regards to relationships, of course, relationship breakups, being in relationship and what that can feel like at times. And as the title of this live stream, it's funny because I was like, when I was like, come join me live, like, I was like, relationships are the death of me and the rise of me. And I was like, relationships? Relationship breakups are the death of me and the rise of me. But I was like, oh, isn't that interesting? Relationships are the death of me. I was like, that is so interesting. So I've got a lot to talk about my realizations around relationships. Hey, Judy. Hey, Shannon. Say hi. Let me know when you're here. I'm going to share this. And I'm going to obviously jump into talking about it. And I'm a little bit nervous about it, of course, because obviously, going through what I've gone through recently, this obviously has been the spur on from this, and it has and it hasn't at the same time. Hey, Shasha. Hey, Kelly. Yes, you're live. Yay. Yes, say hi when you're here. Okay, let me just share this and I'll be present. It's raining here. I don't know if you can hear the rain. If there's any Sunshine Coasters watching, I'm wondering if you can smell the rain. Again, it smells different again. I don't like it. Why does the rain smell different? You know, like it's like, oh, it's raining and you go outside and you can smell the rain and it smells amazing. The past 2 times it's rained, like there's been a really weird smell and I don't know, it's a bit strange, right? I think it's a little bit strange. Hey, Tessa. Okay, let me share this on my timeline. All right. Okay, it's done. It's shared. Okay. A little bit nervous here to talk about this. Hey, Monique from Scotland. Yes, let me know where you are in the world. I would love to hear where you're from in the world. Hey, Hailey. Okay, I don't even know really where to start about like the relationships are the death of me and the rise of me. And I'm like, do you know what? Like even having that, right? Because I was like, relationship breakups are the death of me, but I actually wrote relationships are the death of me. And I was like, how interesting, right? You know, we create our own reality and we also create our own reality around like everything, yeah? There's so many things that, you know, obviously I've gone through recently that have, from New Jersey, the title pulled you in, yes. yes, thank you, Shasha. From Pittsburgh, awesome. Yes, and as I said, a little bit nervous because, you know, like, I guess, obviously I've been through a relationship breakup recently, and I mean, there's so many factors to that. And like, I guess I don't know where to start. Like, does anyone have any, oh, you're wondering why you opened Facebook? Hey, Chaps. Does anyone have any specific questions about like relationship breakups, anything like that? Just type in the comments as I'm talking, right? Because I guess I'm nervous to talk about it in a sense of like, okay, let's just start at the title of the live stream, right? Like relationships are the death of me and they're also the rise of me. And it's like, I was supposed to write relationship breakups, but it ended up coming out relationships. And I'm like, well, isn't that an interesting belief, right? And I know for myself, it's like, you know, like really working like, and of course we are in like the third eye chakra in the, awesome question, Monique. Awesome question. Let's talk about this. Like right now, I'm in the middle of filming the third eye chakra. Yeah. The third eye is all about relationships. Yeah, we are relating to everything all the time. Yes, we are in a relationship with a person, but we're also in a relationship, like we have a relationship about the relationship, right? We have a relationship with this person, right? So there's us and this person, but then in between here, there's also like a relationship, yeah? And we have a relationship with the relationship of the person, yeah? We have a relationship with the relationship of the person. So I just want to point out that little factor. So all about, you know, when we talk about narcissistics, right? This is at the start, yeah? Yeah, so we've got a relationship with the person, and then we've got this relationship to the relationship. So it's I guess we could say it's like a judgment, right? We've got a judgment about the relationship. Yeah, so there's so many aspects, and it's like, well, then we could go in, it's like we've got a relationship to the relationship of the relationship, yeah? Like, how deep do you want to go? Like, we could get lost in it, yeah? So they call it going down the rabbit hole. So let's just keep it simple for a moment, yeah? Got the person relationship, and then we've got relationship to the relationship, yeah? Whatever we're thinking, feeling, like that's a judgment, like it's an energy that we're putting on top of the relationship itself, right? And the person too, yeah? Now, I'll just leave that there for a moment, right? Because when we talk about narcissistics, right? And I'm not sure how long you've been following me for, Monique, but a couple of weeks ago, as I've gone through this whole, I guess, breakup journey, soulful energetic relationships. Yes, relationships are entered on an energetic match, yeah? Relationships are entered on an energetic match for something that's inside of us, yeah? Now, when we talk about a narcissistic relationship, I'm gonna actually just read what I wrote a little while back when I was like going through this whole process, and everyone's like narcissistic. Like, for me personally, I feel sad and my heart hurts when people go around blaming and like they're narcissistic, bastard, bitch, whatever. Yeah, like that hurts my heart when I feel and hear people saying that all the time, right? Because that's you, they're narcissistic, right? That's, yeah? There's an energetic layer that you've just slapped on that person, right? So there's like one tiny little aspect of everything I'm talking about, yeah? So, yeah, right? And it's like this whole thing of like we're in the third eye, it's about relationships, it's about judgments, yeah? It's also your intuition, yeah? We're clairvoyant, we see, yeah? We see through all different realities, we see all different things. And the thing that I just want to point out here is that when, I'm just going to get to the core of this, it feels like I need to. When we're talking about a narcissistic person, and I will use that label just for explaining sakes, right? But I don't like using it for that reason, right? So when a quote unquote narcissistic person comes into your life, okay, at the very start, they probably won't like that. And then your little brain's going, oh no, but that's a narcissistic trait. They're all like charismatic and like they pull you in and they say all the right things and they mirror this and they mirror that and they do all that and they do all the right things and then they turn nasty. Right? That's what your brain just did when I was like, at the start, they weren't a narcissistic person. Okay? Let me know if your brain just did that, right? When that person first came in, they were not a narcissistic asshole or bitch. They weren't. Okay? But what happened is that your intuition was giving you little signs, like you kept going along the relationship and you go along, can't really see, I'm like moving along the timeline going back, yeah? Yeah? Going along, and your intuition was going, ooh, that's a little bit off. Oh, let's just, oh, they're so nice, oh, let's just, oh, something's a little bit off. Oh, that was off, right? Your intuition was a little bit off, yeah? But you kept going. And then it kind of started getting a little bit worse, and your intuition's like, but that's off. And then so you say something, and then it ends up in this thing, and then you keep going along, right? There's always a sign, always one at least, yeah. And it just depends how clear you are, or not necessarily clear, how confident you are in trusting your intuition. At the end of the day, your intuition is always switched on. Your intuition is always there. Your intuition is always guiding you. It depends how confident you are in trusting and listening and following that. If you do not, the relationship will end up narcissistic. But what is actually happening, right? Again, I don't like using those labels, but what is actually happening, yeah, is that your intuition was telling you, right? But you didn't listen to your intuition, and instead you went along with it. Okay, and what happens then is it gets enmeshed, yeah? Because when we stop listening to our intuition, right? So, like, the thing is, like, we're all connected to our intuition, right? We're all conscious of our intuition. We're doing our thing, and then somebody comes into our life, and we're like, hey, this is amazing. And instead of, like, a healthy relationship is built on these two people connecting to our higher source, connecting to their intuition, taking care of themselves, looking after their life, right? When a relationship turns unhealthy, what happens, and this is what happens in narcissistic relationship, instead of listening to your intuition, yeah, or any relationship basically, instead of listening to your intuition, you instead listen to the other person. And so then that's what happens, is it gets enmeshed, yeah? And we're trying to meet each other's needs, and as you know, we can never meet our needs through another person, ever. Doesn't matter how amazing they are, ever, right? Because the only person that can ever meet your needs are this, right? Continuing looking after yourself, being connected to a higher power, to your intuition, whatever you want to call it, okay? Now, I just want to point out that any relationship can go unhealthy. And I strongly believe that any relationship can go healthy again with two willing parties involved, yeah? If both people are willing to do the inner work, are willing to, do what it takes to get the relationship back healthy. Yeah, and that might mean like separating, having a bit more space, or, like looking after yourself, or both getting mentor support, getting couples counseling, like whatever it takes. But I believe that two willing people can make a relationship go healthy again, but it takes work. I won't lie about that, right? So I'll look at the comments afterwards. I'll just keep speaking for a moment, yeah? So with this, yeah. So when we're talking about a narcissistic person, right? I want to just explain this a little bit. I'm just going to quickly find the post that I had the realization about what a narcissist, because, when I went through my relationship and people were like, oh, narcissistic behavior, blah, blah, like all these comments. And I was just like, no, like it actually hurt my heart that people were throwing all those judgments at the post that I had, that I shared about my relationship breakup to start with, that wasn't even about that. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like, what I realized is we had different relationship values, yeah? And this is another important thing. Like, when we enter into a relationship, if we are not clear on all avenues of all our values in our life, and we're not super clear on that, right? Or we might be clear on that. And we're like, oh, it's okay. And we go along. And then at the end of the day, when the breakup happens, we're like, actually, that's really important to me. I can't actually do that. And sometimes it takes going through it to then realize, actually, no, I do need that, right? So let me just see if I can find this post. Here it is here. Okay, I'm going to read this and then I'm going to go into it. Okay. So this thing on narcs, right? A narcissistic person is a representation of your shadow of your unconscious. Okay, so a shadow aspect is just an aspect in our psyche that is unconscious, right? We have conscious awareness and we have unconscious awareness, okay? A narcissistic person that enters into your life, again, they are not narcissistic in the start. Well, maybe they have those traits, right? But it's up to you to take heed of your intuition before it gets like this, yeah? And when we talk about, a narc is a representation of your shadow, of your unconsciousness, what it actually then stems into is that you might be aware, right? You might be like, oh, and then you're like, oh, something's off. You just don't trust yourself, or, something, and you like work through it and you're like, okay, cool. Like, and you keep going, right? And then you work through it, and then something happens that maybe, I don't know, whatever happens in a relationship, and one person isn't willing to keep growing anymore, perhaps, right? So it gets to a point where you're like, and your intuition is telling you, okay, it's time to leave now, it's time to leave now, and you don't, right? What happens then is that you go unconscious with them. That person is not bad. That narcissistic person is not an asshole prick. Like, yeah, it can end up in domestic violence and all that sort of shit. That's real dark, like unconscious behavior. It's unconscious behavior. It is not conscious. Yeah? And you stepped into the dark with them. You do the men, women do it too. Yeah? Women do it too. So it is the man and it is the woman, but it's both. Yeah? And I just got the message, how do you make a man rise? You stay connected to your intuition, your values, and you keep going, yeah? And they'll either rise with you or they won't. Yeah? I'm seeing some comments, but I will go through eventually, right? So you step into the unconsciousness and the darkness with them. Okay, that's nothing bad, right? A shadow aspect, right? A shadow aspect turns up into your life to make you more conscious of yourself, right? An unconscious part surfaces in your subconscious to your conscious awareness, usually reflected by a person entering into your life for whatever reason, shape or form. It's time to, like, something's coming up in your subconscious, time to like shift it out. And that's usually represented by a reflection in our physical reality as a person. Yeah? So when we can be aware that everyone, and this is why I harp on about shadow work, this is why, you know, I always talk about like, so like the demons and the entities and all that sort of thing, right? Is that when you go unconscious, the same thing with a demon, an entity like the Grim Reaper, if you saw me post about it, right? What it's doing is it's pulling you into the darkness. It's pulling you off path. Okay, the other thing that demons, entities, all this stuff do is they're there to sabotage you in a way, right? When you're stepping up in your life, when you're moving forward, when you're doing all these things, sabotage kicks in. That can be represented by people entering your life and you stepping into the unconscious with them if you don't trust your intuition and keep following your intuition over people outside of you, right? So I teach in my Trust Your Intuition course to listen to yourself over anything outside of you, right? No matter how shiny it is and amazing it is. Yeah, that takes a lot of strength, confidence, all that jazz, right? There's so many layers and aspects to that. Now, anybody, as I said, anybody can go unconscious, no matter how conscious we are, right? The turning point comes, right? And it's like, yeah, and I'm saying it's not this person's darkness, entities, demons, whatever. That person pulls you off path, right? And I just want to point out, the more conscious you are, the more uncomfortable and the more like death it feels like to be in the wrong situation. Yeah, let's scrap those labels. If you are out of alignment in your life, everything is going to be a struggle. Everything is going to be hard, right? It doesn't mean that we don't walk through the valley of the shadow of the death sometimes, right? But what it does mean is that everything will try and pull you into that space and keep you there. Yeah, it takes a lot of courage to separate, come back to the light and keep going with or without that person, right? This is why support, this is why like all that thing comes in, yeah? Let me just see if there's anything I need to just say about that. Yeah, so again, I just want to, for some reason I'm like, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, talk about that, right? It's like when you stepped into the dark with them, there's soul contracts, there's past lives, there's all these things at play, right? There's so many depths, avenues, all of that to explore, yeah? They keep you from growing, I'd rather rise above. Yeah, okay. They keep you from growing? Yes and no. Because when you've stepped into the dark, you're still growing. Even though you're in the dark and it's like, oh, they did this to me, right? What do I always say about pointing fingers at them? They've got 3. Yeah? They might be holding you back. They might be stopping you from growing, yeah. But at the same time, you are growing in that space. Your soul is growing in that space. Your consciousness is growing in that space. Your strength might seem like it's being taken away. Might seem like it's dissolving and disappeared and you could never come back from it, right? But what is actually happening is you're gaining more strength than you could ever not going through that experience. Because when that experience turns up in your reality again, so you pull yourself out and move on, blah, 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 whatever, right? When that experience turns up in your reality again, it will. It's almost like the universe testing you. Are you willing to step into the dark again? Or are you willing to say, actually, no, and keep going? And then meet somebody who's also in the light with you, who doesn't disown their darkness, who is conscious and willing to do the work too. It's not that everybody's conscious and everybody's unconscious. Again, I don't like using labels. But for the sake of explaining things, it's that, yeah? And because nobody's 100% conscious all the time. Like, we wouldn't be in this dimension if we weren't. Yeah, we're human. And we're having a human experience for whatever reason, shape or form. But every time we step into the dark, we are growing in strength, because when we remove ourselves, we won't let it go into that much darkness again. We'll be like, whoop, nope, know that one again, not doing that again, right? If you're in a situation that you need to get out of and you don't know how, whatever, like if you experience domestic violence, if you're experiencing violence, like violence is not okay. Okay? There's helplines, like you can type into Google like domestic violence helplines. There's men's helplines and there's women's helplines, all right? Because it's not just the men. There are women just as abusive. Okay? It's not, I guess, talked about as much. Okay, let me just, okay. So let me just bring up the comments and see, and ask, I need to see what's in the comments, right? Okay. Oh, I hope all the comments didn't disappear off my thing. Oh no, they haven't. Okay, let me have a look here. Yeah, so my nurturing side pulls me into the lost little boy. Okay, that's the other thing I wanted to say. So usually when we enter into a relationship, there's a lot of us are talking about third eye, that we see the potential in that person, and that's what we fall in love with. We see the potential, we see the everything it could be, but sometimes we kind of not looking at the reality of the situation, okay? So we get pulled in, wanting to nurture and take care of them, right? And that steps into people pleasing, that steps into not nurturing yourself, not being clear in your boundaries, not having the confidence within yourself to trust yourself, to look after yourself, to do all those things for yourself, okay? So, yeah, wanting to be there for him, do everything, like wanting to fix, because actually if I walk away, I'm actually like doing what's right for me, and that means that they will have to, face their shit, and I don't want them to face their shit because I don't want them to hurt. No other human being wants to see another human being hurt. So we want to fix everything, but that's sometimes at the detriment to our own self. Yeah? Yes, boundaries. All comes down to boundaries, right? And if we're not clear in what we value, we won't be clear in our values, and we also won't be strong in them, yeah? Plus self-care, yeah? But yes, it does come down to boundaries. Okay. Yep. Your body will always tell you, yeah? So I'm just scrolling through the comments. I use the word manipulate, and you open my mind to what I was actually doing by using that word. Yes, the blame game. Yes, yes. Yes, you sure have shifted so much, Aurora. So much, yeah? Okay, let me just check these. Hindsight is 20/20. Yeah, and the thing is, like, hindsight and everything, we can like go on and, oh, I should have done this, and I wish I'd done this. And yes, we will go through that phase. It's part of the grieving process and letting go, yeah? And when we, I guess, like, the looking back does help us to strengthen next time, right? It's a learning process. We're like taking it, we're like, oh, I should have done that. Say, oh, well. And I just want to point out, when we make a decision, doubt will always come up. If you end the relationship, doubt will always then surface, and that's just like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, and we get caught up in the doubt and confusion, and we go back and we start the whole thing again, right? When you make a decision, doubt will always come up. The key is to take the learnings and keep moving through that doubt, because you wouldn't have made that decision to leave in the first place if it wasn't right. Yeah. And this is why, like, even entering into a relationship to the depth that you did, there was nothing wrong with that either, because in that moment it felt right. Even if your intuition was just niggling, right? For some reason, as I said, your soul had to go in and learn from that experience to then pull back out and become stronger. Yeah. And you grow that way too. Yeah. Okay. Choice to make, know yourself better. Yes. Awesome, Shannon. You have a crush on someone who is not emotionally available. Interesting. Okay, so when we close ourselves off with hurt, we create this like wall of like protection. Yeah, it's very isolating. It's very blocking out of everything, including love. Okay, if we are emotionally unavailable for ourselves or other people, or there's a part of us that's like got a wall up just in case, oh, I'll just keep a wall up, we will attract other emotionally unavailable people, because that's what we're putting out. Oh yeah, I'm willing, but oh no, just this until this level, but not all the way in, right? So that's something that I would look there. Yeah, and so I just want to point out there, Shannon, you know, like, he wants the physical, but you want the whole thing. And so you've got a boundary, like, well, actually, I want the whole thing, right? I want the full availability of you, okay? That's a really strong boundary, as you said. You know, you said, I so want to break my boundaries just a feeling, but I know it'll hurt in the end, right? And this is where being clear, so you're very clear about what you want, having the confidence and trust that the universe will deliver, and, you know, moving forward, because otherwise it will go into that space again, yeah? Which you already know, right? But it's like, it's grieving the loss of that too. Sometimes we can get stuck in places because we're not allowing ourselves to feel the grief. And that's also like when we make a decision and all the doubt comes up and confusion and like, oh my God, I should have done this and I should have done that. The other thing we don't want to do is feel the pain of all the shit and all the hopes and dreams that were lost about the possibilities, that probably we're just seeing the potential in that person, not the reality. And we're not wanting to face the feeling of the grief of that pain. And so what happens when we do that, we're like, oh, don't want to do that, maybe if I fix this, and we go back and we do it all again, right? When we actually know that doubt's going to come up, when we actually know the grief and the pain keeps coming through and going to keep doing that, it's kind of like, okay, I need to grieve about this, and I need to grieve about all the things that I thought were going to happen, because a lot of the grief in a relationship breakup is that we had this idea about this person and what the life was going to be like with them, and we planned it all and did all this stuff. And if we don't grieve about that, as well as the reality of all the shit and everything that happened, it's like we will stay stuck there. And if we don't fully face all of this part, it'll be sitting in our energetic field, and we'll either attract other partners that have got similar going on and we haven't totally cleared it and cleaned it and all that sort of jazz, or we'll go back into that thing again. Yeah. So, and this is why taking the time is good, but also taking the time to feel and work through everything that happened and do the processes and stuff to clear out your past relationships, so that it doesn't, when it comes back again, you're able to be more solid and actually going, no, actually, like in yourself, be like, I know where this is going. I'm like, nope, been there, done that, and you keep going on, right? So let me just look here. Okay, when something energetically doesn't fit, again, intense need to vomit, so I have to listen. Yes. It is a bonus, but a hard one to appreciate. Yes. Yes, awesome. Some have more narcissistic traits than others. Yeah, and it depends how much you want to enter into it with them. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's, of course, there's different levels, scales, whatever you want to call it. You know, and at the end of the day, that narcissistic person has had, I don't know, who knows what they've had. Rough childhood, don't have parents, like who knows what the story is, right? That person at the end of the day is full of hurt and they're not wanting to face it. Plain and simple. That's why people like us, we can feel as empaths. We're like, oh, we can feel that, and we want to, oh, I don't want them to hurt anymore. Yeah? Okay. Okay, Tessa says, I can't stop loving him and thinking I can fix him by loving him enough. Can't stop loving him, thinking I can fix him. Yeah. Sometimes tough love is walking away. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is walk away. Yeah? Yeah, we can never fix them, exactly. Now, I just want to point out too, like, there are relationships, obviously, that fully loving somebody can also mean accepting them where they're at. But again, it takes two, right? So you know how I said, like, relationships can go unhealthy. I strongly believe, because I've seen it in my reality, the relationships can go healthy again. But it takes two willing, dedicated people to do the work to both get to that point. Yeah, it's really important to know that. And sometimes we need to separate for that, to either for the universe to show us if it's them or somebody else, right? All we can do is love ourselves the most. We are definitely the shadows for other people. Yes, 100%. Almost 22 years and 7 kids later, it's hard to leave. So yeah, I guess it would be dropping into all those questions like, you know, what sort of inner work have you done? What sort of, you know, like, have you got counseling together? You know, there's so many aspects that comes into play with that. How long have you been doing internal work? Like, all of that. It is a long, hard road to recovery after handing over your last bit of self and energy and more. Yeah, especially after a long time too, do you know what I mean? Okay, what else? Yeah, and that's the thing. You come in, you grow together without saying a word, and then you just knew it was time to leave, but both best friends, which is tricky. Yeah, we can leave after a long time for sure. I thought I was loving unconditionally. Yeah, and again, like, loving unconditionally, yes. Again, it's like loving and accepting that person for who they are. But at the same time, again, like, you know, we come into this space and it's kind of like, we can go, oh, hang on, like, whoa, we kind of like wake up and we're like, hang on, this is like unhealthy. I'll use unhealthy, right? There's so many terms that we could use. Unhealthy, right? And this person can be like struggling to find the connection, because the only thing that relationships go unhealthy about is because both people have lost their connection to spirit, to their intuition, whatever you want to call it. Yeah? We like go, oh yeah, let's connect, and we forget about connecting up there, right? There's always three in a relationship. You, your partner, spirit. When you lose that connection, you lose everything. Yeah? When you build and regain your own connection, you can mirror, right? Unconditionally loving someone is loving yourself and putting your connection back up, and by vibrational energetic match, that person will either do the same, or they're like, it'll keep kind of fighting against it or whatever, because they're not ready to connect to spirit in the way that will support you in the relationship. And, you know, and so that person will leave, or you'll go, actually, no, this is not okay. Or you'll be like, okay, I can love this person where they're at without them having to be spiritual, right? But if this person is not respecting you and they're still trying to connect with you because they're so used to, after such a long time, that you've been feeding them blah, 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 right? And if they're not willing to do the work and reconnect, well then, yeah, it's going to be really draining. And as a connected type person, let's call it for label's sake, explaining sake, it's like, that's really draining, right? Because they're feeding through you, right? And that's not your responsibility to do that. And that's where it takes that strength to walk away. And then that person might go, whoa, hang on a sec, I've got nothing now, I have to connect, right? Or sometimes I'll just go and connect with someone else and do it with somebody else. Yeah? It's kind of the best way I could describe that. Hey, Amanda. Yeah, so Fatima, when you say it's a blessing and a curse, yeah, we see the potential, right? And our gift is an intuitive, our biggest teacher is an intuitive. And when we're talking about third eye and clairvoyance, like, as I said, I'm filming third eye at the moment. That's why the consciousness is out here in this. It's like, it's a blessing and a curse. No, the only curse is not seeing the truth of the reality of the situation, of their potential, of their soul, of the amazing being and soul connection that you feel. And then also the reality of that person and how they connect with you in your life and fit in or not, right? Yeah, and what your values are. It's like being really clear on the reality as well as the potential and all the amazing things that can possibly manifest, yeah? This is the, you know, this is the clairvoyance, this is the intuitive, like, we see all the amazing possibilities and connections and we feel it, right? But we also kind of, we've got to remember to see and train ourselves to see the reality of the situation as well, yeah? Yeah, awesome, Jessica. So, ex-boys told me that nobody would love me. Yes, yep, they do that, yep. And they do that because that's how they're getting food from you. You know how I just described that then, right? So it's like that's how they're keeping you. Even though it's not nice, it's a way they're getting food because you're like still tapped into it. You're still like, oh, right? And they're still getting food, right? The only way to fully separate is that, right? And that's the thing where it comes down to like your self-confidence, your self-worth, you know, doing those things and connecting with people who can lift you up, right? Because we do get so pulled into it that we're like, oh, like it's like death, right? That's why I said like relationships like the death when we're in that sort of a situation, right? It's a death of a part of our consciousness because when we do come back out, we're stronger, yeah? Yay for knowing that you are good enough. Is it Kritikos? Is that how you say your name? Hey, Rebecca. Best to be alone instead of around verbal abuse. Yeah, best to be alone and working on your self-confidence, your boundaries, knowing and being very clear on what they are. So when these sorts of people keep turning up in your life, you learn to say no, and you learn to say no. And then they're over here and you're like, oh, I see you over there, but you don't get this close to me anymore because my energy's totally changed. And then you attract all these other new people in that are the same energy and vibration, yeah? Oh, Viola. Okay. Yeah, sometimes we don't realize until it's too late. And I say sometimes we don't realize, yeah, until we've stepped into the darkness with them. And then we're like, and then when we do realize, we're like, whoa, hang on. That's when we wake up and that's when we start separating. And that's when it goes like this because we've woken up and they're doing that thing, yeah? Got all these hand like magic visualizations going on here. I feel like it can explain it a bit better. Hey, but Katrina, okay, Amanda says, how do you train yourself to see the reality of a situation? I've repeatedly struggled with only seeing other people's potential, end up hurt in the end. Yes. Okay, so how do you train yourself? Yeah, so this is where like going through like a relationship inventory. Now, what I'm about to say is like, what's the word? I'm gonna say big, hard, deep work. It's facing the reality, right? How do we train ourselves to see the reality of a situation? We face our reality of our own life. Yeah? We face the reality. We take radical responsibility for our reality in all areas, shapes, and forms. Yeah, not just relationships, but every single area of your life, right? So for example, right, if you were to say take the last relationship that was hell, right? And you can, for a reality inventory sake, what you can do is you can sit down with a piece of paper and write down all the things that you hated about the relationship, write down all the things. Now, this might sound really negative, but we're doing a reality check-in, right? So write down all the things that you hated about the relationship, about all the things that hurt you, all the things that were wrong about the relationships, start with one relationship, all the things that you on a different piece of paper wish were different, yeah, so the things that you kind of do want. Now what that will do is will also get you clear on your values and what's important to you, right? So say someone would always cut you off in the middle of talking and be like, well, I actually value being heard. Yeah, so you can write that down on the good piece of paper, okay? Later on we'll burn this stuff or whatever. But what we're doing is looking at this reality, right? And some people don't want to face the reality. And this is why, when in a relationship we make a decision to leave and then doubt will come up, as I said. It's because we're not wanting to face the reality of the grief, of the pain, of the hurt, of the freaking reality of what it was, right? So we jump back in and like it's a coping mechanism so we don't feel, right? Society is not comfortable with feeling, right? So when we can do that and, like face the reality, right? And that might mean looking at that and actually crying or feeling feelings of regret, remorse, anger, you know, we might feel for the very first time, right? And that's not really easy to do if you've never done that before either, okay? And this is why I'm always like, get support. I'm like, are you supported? Like, what's going on with you? Like, do you want to book in? I'm like, because I'm like, you need support, right? Especially if you've never done this sort of thing before, right? And, you know, like, of course, there's different counsels and everything like that, but they must be able to understand and drop you into the feelings and be there with you with your feelings, right? Because you could do a zillion meditations, but you're going to stay in your head, right? We need to drop into our heart and feel that, okay? So looking at the reality of your past relationships. So with that example that I just gave you, hey everyone jumping on, with that example I just gave you about that one relationship, yeah, you want to really get into like how we can, you know, like jump in and like train ourselves to see the reality of a situation. Like, and some people might say like, oh, don't do this. Like, it's pretty negative. It's pretty harsh. It's pretty like heavy, you know, oh, manifest our reality like that again. But if you've never like looked at the reality of it and you're still going through shit, it's kind of like, get this out as quick as possible even, and, you know, just do an inventory over all the past relationships you have. Like, if you really want that depth of clarity, you know, like go through and look at, and all the bad stuff, burn it as soon as possible, throw it in the bin or something, right? But for every bad thing you write down, what is the opposite of that? Okay, write that on the good piece of paper, because you're getting clear on what you do want in a relationship. Most of us go back to old relationships or patterns because we're not clear about what we do want, and then have the confidence and trust and belief that we are worthy of having that to stay clear on this and only this, yeah? So you've got the most current relationship, for example, and, you know, and you might need support with this. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you start going into it, you're like, oh my God, this is like full on. Like, book in, you know, like my 21-day shifter program is $97 until February. The price is going up after that. But, you know, like, get support. Like, I can help you. Like, this is what I do, right? But with this, it's like, go through that relationship. And then once you've cleared that out and got really clear about what you do want, right? And you've got the good stuff, what was the relationship before that? Yeah, go back to your very first relationship from when you ever had a first relationship when you're a teenager or younger, okay? If you really want to, you know, like shift, like do a clearing like that, yeah? So I need to learn to handle constructive criticism and not react. Yeah, that's a big one, probably for another live stream. That's a whole different conversation I can talk about, because I'm like the queen of reactions. How about I do a live stream on that on the weekend, right? Let me just write that down. I'm like the queen of reactions, yeah? And it's the reactions that I've had in past relationships that have caused me to break up, fuck this shit, I'm out of here, right? Over and over and over again. And my reactions stem me into this like, oh shit. And then I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, and then go back in. Now, with everything that I've just already said on this live stream about all these little things that I've showed you, right? But what I've also learned is how my reactions can be done here without going here. But at the same time, there's also like negative reaction, there's positive reaction. How do we even do that? How do we even take criticism on? Yeah, as you're saying, right? Okay. Yep, same, Shelley. Okay, let me just write that down. I will do a live stream on the weekend. What did we say? Oh yeah, how to handle constructive criticism and not react. Just let me write that down. Okay. Have a problem staying out of your head. Yeah, that's because we usually stay in our head because there's feelings in our body that we don't want to feel. Yeah. The triggers and the flashbacks, yeah, I'll talk about all of that, hey? Because, yeah, that's a whole nother depth of conversation. Yeah, how to stay in your heart more, feel more. Get comfortable feeling. Yeah, yep, you're so aware of your patterns and you can't shift them, yeah? So at the third eye, yeah, we're seeing the patterns, yeah? We're seeing the patterns, we're experiencing the patterns, we can see it all going on, but we're still doing the thing, right? In light field yoga that I teach, the yoga for third eye is like this. And at the sacral chakra, we put the same hand, can't see, on the belly, yeah? So that's like just down on the belly. Now, the third eye and the sacral chakra are both one chakra in from the top and the bottom, yeah? Here we see the patterns. Here we embody the patterns, yeah? In our sacral, in our womb, in the place where we create, yeah? And there's so much I could talk about on that. If you want more information about those two in particular, please let me know, because I've done specific live streams on the third eye and the sacral and how they relate like that, where we actually embody the patterns. If you want to shift out a pattern, work on your sacral chakra, yeah? All right, so I will do another live stream on the weekend, probably Sunday morning, Australian Eastern Standard Time. So I'm not sure what time, just turn notifications on my Facebook page, and that way you'll get notified when I go live. I'll post probably about 15 minutes before I go live as well. It'll be Sunday morning sometimes. Yeah, get creative, yes. So the Divine Balanced has been released. Yeah, if you want more information on what I just asked, just send me a private message after the live stream. So the whole, purpose of the relationships and being in the third eye at the moment, the divine balance, the masculine and the feminine, is literally about it is the masculine and the feminine, right? When we're talking about relationships, we've got this whole, it's usually masculine and feminine. Now, whether you're in a same-sex relationship or not, there's still a masculine energy going on, yeah? The whole death of me in the past few weeks about my relationship breakup has been as I've been creating the divine balance, which is the triple goddess, which is the divine feminine, which is the divine masculine, which is the triune god, this whole thing for me has been so my awareness. And this is the thing, whenever I create something, I walk through it, right? And I live it. And this whole third eye is exactly what's going on as well. So the triple goddess is healing the divine. So if you want to clear out ancestral karmic patterns, right? Yes, we can work on our sacral. The triune god and the triple goddess, they heal the ancestral karma has been passed down for generations, yeah? So in the triple goddess, we're working with the maiden, the mother, the crone, yeah? In the triune god, we're working with the stag, the father, and the sage. Now, when I've been creating this, and this came to me nearly 2 years ago when I was working with the sacral chakra, yeah? It's yes, there's the 3 and the 3, okay? And I was there's a missing part, yeah? It's the fourth part, yeah, it becomes the sacred 4. And then this becomes the sacred 8. And what an 8 symbol is the infinity, right? How do I do it? The infinity sign, yeah, number 8, yeah? It becomes this unending, never-ending flow, right? With the sacred 8. Now the masculine and feminine, the inflow and the outflow, I always talk about, yeah, of the divine balance, yeah? There's an inflow and outflow. There's an outflow, it's the masculine. There's an inflow, there's a feminine. There's an outflow, the masculine. There's an inflow, the feminine. Each of those inflow and outflow happens in every single one of our chakras, yeah? So there's an inflow and outflow in the third eye, in the ears, in the throat, yeah? And there's and it's this DNA too, right? So when I work with the triple goddess and the triune god, there's the fourth counterpart for each of them, yeah? And then it creates the divine balance. They come together, yeah? And so the sacred 4 become the sacred 8, and it turns into the infinity flow. Now, this heals, as I said, the generational karmic patterns, we go back generations through these meditations. There's the triple goddess meditation, there's the triune god meditation, there's the sacred 4 meditations, and then there's the divine balance meditation. Yeah, it's very in depth, and I'm excited to release this because it is, it's been huge for me. And even when I created, I'm the intuition flowed through me back in, it was August when the triple goddess flowed through me, and it was after the past life meditation flowed through me, and that was the same energy that streamed through me when I created those. They're very, very powerful. They're very deep as well. So I'll put the link in the comments now, and until the February as well, until the 19th of February, it's $33 US, so it might seem crazy low for what it is. The price will be going up next year, but this has been released to my tribes ages ago when I released them back in August and September. But finally, the Divine Balance, the Triple Goddess, and the Triune God meditations have been released. So I'm a little bit excited to share that with you guys, right in the third eye chakra, of course. So thanks for joining me live. If you think that this can help anybody, please share it with them in a private message, or you can tag their name in the comments, or you can share it on your page if you feel like it would hurt. If it would hurt, if it would help them. I was just looking at what you're saying there, Shelley. Yeah, well, basically, like we can always be working on all of our chakras, you know, like there's different chakras help with different things, obviously. I'm like the chakra queen. I do have a free training on getting clear intuition that goes through all the chakras. So if you'd like that as well, please, you can check out my website, realityawareness.com, or otherwise, you can just send me a private message and I'll send you the direct link. It's all free until the February 2019, I should say. So the Divine Balance is there. If you've got any questions, comment below, and I shall see you on Sunday morning. We'll be having a live stream, or Saturday evening or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Yes, be crystal clear in what you deserve and want. That is right. Yes, strengthen your boundaries, strengthen your intuition, trust yourself, because you are worth it and you deserve it. Love you. Namaste.